Universal just announced that they're bringing a year-round haunted house to Chicago. Here's the details. So Universal announced today they're making a second location for their Horror Unleashed, and it's going to be in Chicago. So there's really not many details in here, but it sounds like this is going to be very similar to the other Horror Unleashed, which is opening on August 14th in Las Vegas at Area 15. A indoor facility that's going to be a year-round horror facility that will have multiple haunted houses along with themed food and beverage. Now, we can look at the Vegas location to get a little clues as to how this one in Chicago might be, even though they haven't discussed anything. But in Vegas, you have, again, the 4 haunted houses indoors. You have bars that some of which have scare elements like Scare Zone-esque and some don't, and there's supposed to be some sort of live entertainment option. And they've announced some of the IPs for Vegas, but they've announced nothing for Chicago yet. At the Vegas location, they did talk about how it's going to be a work in progress and that they're potentially going to change or rotate the IPs or potentially do seasonal overlays. It's going to be a lot of seeing how it actually plays out when it actually opens. So essentially, all we know right now is that there's going to be a year-round haunted house type experience located in the Chicago area, indoors, potentially multiple haunts, food and beverage, that kind of a thing. Okay, so here's my take on it. I think that the reason that they're announcing this expansion into the Chicago market without even figuring out the business model or opening the Vegas location yet is really more as a hedge against their potential stock erosion. And that's because most of Universal's income comes still from broadband, and broadband is declining as people are cord cutting. Just last month, for the first time ever, more people were watching streaming than we're watching broadband cable. And so that curve, the loss, is potentially accelerating, which is a bigger threat to Comcast because that's where they get most of their budget. YouTube is doing to Netflix what Netflix is doing to Comcast. Basically, Comcast has a looming threat here, which is how fast that cable market is going to shrink. And that is still their biggest moneymaker. It's their higher profit margin. It's just the best business for them. However, what they're trying to do is diversify quickly into themed entertainment and experiences. That's why they have this whole destination department. So I think that they're trying to announce this location as a way to keep confidence in their stock and their company high, because the business model has not been tested. I mean, the idea with Vegas, you are assuming that 3 million people that visit Area 15, and you're assuming that some percentage of them is going to go over. And even if 5-7% of them go over into the haunt experience there, that should pay for its budget and lead it to profitability. But that's because it's in a highly foot trafficked location. And the Chicago area doesn't have that much built-in foot traffic. And plus, there's also much more competition in the Chicago market with independent haunted attractions. There are incredible independent haunted attractions. And everything that we've heard so far about this experience in Vegas, again, hasn't opened yet, but everything that we've heard so far is that it's basically just a normal haunted attraction. The team is putting it in a position to saying that it's not normal, but having themed bars and a midway and a continuous theme and multiple attractions, that's pretty standard for haunts in the Chicago area. They have that level of theming and that level of integrated story and that level of bars and accessory and things to do. So I think it's going to be a much harder market for them to get in because there's not the built-in foot traffic and because there's competitors that are entrenched for decades in that area that I don't know they're going to take market share from. So I'm not sure it's necessarily a good idea at this point, the expansion in there, or even the business model, because I don't think that Chicago area can sustain a year-round haunt. And I know that it's going to change. They've already said it's going to change, that the way they operate during the haunt season is going to potentially change during the off season. So they've already said that. But I think this is mainly a play for confidence in the brand, almost like a response to the declining numbers ahead of time, because during the last earnings call, their stock dipped even with Epic, even with how much attention and how much everyone was talking about the Epic Park opening. Their stock still dipped because it's a looming disaster for the company in terms of their cash flow. So that's my thoughts on it. I don't think the Chicago is a good idea. I don't think the year-round thing is going to work there. I think it's a weird competitive mix to be going into. But all that being said, we haven't seen Vegas at all, and they haven't announced it's going to be exactly like Vegas. They've just used the same name. So they might be going to be looking at what works in Vegas and adapting it and then changing it to fit the market in some way that does work potentially. But we'll see.